I'm the first one to do that. I bet you never knew that. Back like a tailbone. Who you got the tail on? If it ain't about me, about whole D, about face. If you ain't on higher, learn it. The soda in the pot and the fire, burn it.
This shit is so dope. You might wanna be my guest. This shit is so dope. You might wanna be my.
Oh, I can't control my anger. Y'all probably wondering why I'm so upset right now. Let me calm down for a brief moment. I just got done watching Gladiator 2, and I'm gonna tell you guys right now, that movie was beyond terrible. Now, personally, this shit caught me off guard. It caught me off guard pretty damn good. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm not really a fan of Gladiator. I haven't even seen the first one, okay? I haven't seen the first one until recently. My cousin, he is a huge Gladiator fan. Big shout out to Kevin, by the way. He loved the original. So he hyped me up so we can watch the second one together. But I told him that I have not seen the first one yet. So we watched the first one together. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, the first one was phenomenal. It was a very good film. And people, even most people will say that the movie is a masterpiece. And at lowest expectations of people's criticism, they will say the movie was fantastic. The whole choreography itself of the whole film, the character development, the scenery. And I'm not really a big fan when it comes to me talking about scenes that much on film, so please forgive me of my criticism. I'll mostly talk about acting and the story and if you guys should watch it or not. But the scenery of the Gladiator film with Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, and other characters really pulled you in when it comes to you believing the scenery and believing the acting ability to the point where you really felt at those Greek times, especially with Russell Crowe's character. By you being pulled into his character, by him being a gladiator, him being a real civilized warrior to the point where he had to literally beat his way to victory, not just by him owning glory, but by him being pushed to the limits of what he would do for him and for his family as well. This movie would not just make you be into the brink of these ancient times of Greek history, but you relating to these characters as well by you feeling, you know, what would you do if you was in these situations? I love films like this. And above all, when it comes to movies like this, when it puts you into the brink of relatability and the execution, and I'd even tell you about the action itself, but everything was done well. Everything was polished to the point where it made me cherish and appreciate old films all over again, because this is not just a film of you appreciating the film of how good it is, but just knowing that creativity would not be executed when it comes to you not taking risks. And this was a risk-taking film, and I loved it. I love this film a lot, and I would encourage everybody to watch the first Gladiator film. The first Gladiator film really blew me away, and it actually shows you how other films and other series got their ideas from, such as Vikings, Spartacus, and even Game of Thrones. And even going even further, I didn't even know this, but now I know why. I know where MF Doom got his helmet from. He got it from Russell Crowe's character. And I was like, wow, I must have been living under a rock, because I'm a diehard MF Doom fan. I consider myself schooled. I was hyped to watch the second one. I was hyped to watch the second one so much to the point where I literally geeked out. I told my cousin, let's watch the second one. Let's watch the second one. I'm so hooked. I have to watch the second one. But then it put me into a brink of an epiphany emotion. And what I mean by that is that why I love the first one so much is because I know that movies like that would not exist today. And it brainwashed me thinking that it will happen on the second one. It's like that scene on Attack on Titan when Eren was being chased down by the female Titan, and the scouts had to fight the female Titan off as he escaped, and he really felt as if things was under control until Levi gave him an epiphany method, letting him know, hey, look, just because things may seem well, one mistake can go to a whole jurisdiction of uncarelessness. And I do agree. When you feel as if things are great, that's when you let your guard down with disaster. And that's what happened with Attack on Titan. And that's what happened here. I forgot that wokeism existed. I forgot that censorship existed. I forgot that like pronouns existed. I forgot about all this shit. And the reason I'm saying that is because Gladiator, the first one, was all about the story, the choreography, and all this shit. And to compare to Gladiator 2, this movie was not just bad, because it was terrible. The movie was terrible. Just letting y'all know, the movie was terrible. So for those who wanted to know my opinion about it, y'all can leave now, because the movie is not worth your time. The movie was bad. Now for those who want to stay and want to know my full input about it, the movie was not just terrible. It's woke too. Now, for people who know me personally and people who knows my channel and know what I represent and know what I spectate and know what I criticize, y'all know out of everything that I put in this channel and the content that I give you guys, the fans, the viewers, and the lovers and the students, y'all know that I hate political shit on projects, especially if it doesn't belong there. I hate woke shit. I hate all that shit. Black Lives Matter, trans, I hate all that. All that is a speculation of weakening the psyche without educating the mind of common sense. We all know this. So when I see shit like this, be on projects like this, I have to attack it. I have to butcher it. I have to turn the rocks into pebbles, even less than that, even sand. And I became so sharp of noticing wokeism to the point where if I see a spectacle of it in projects like this, I instantly get pissed off. And it makes me pissed even more because when I witness projects like this and I paid money to watch it or check it out or play it, I have to stick with it. And I've learned that by playing Star Wars Outlaws, and it fucked me up so much to the point where I had to recover. I'm saying that because when I was watching Gladiator 2 in the film festival with my cousin, I thought that it was just me that was pointing out certain things, but everybody was. A lot of people in the audience was pointing out a lot of weird woke shit that was already happening less than 10 minutes into the fucking film. The film takes place 16 years after the first one. And when we are introduced to the film, they don't show us characters that we know and love. They don't show memorable characters, and they don't even show us the cast that literally beefed up the whole franchise to make people watch the whole film. You have half of the people that wanted to watch this film because of the cast that has introduced us to this, to the trailers, and you have the other half that want to watch it because they're a fan of Gladiator, which the same half didn't even ask for the second one to begin with. But we not introduced to any of that shit. We're introduced to a female character that was in the first one, and I didn't even recognize until my cousin pointed her out to me. And they already showed her. They showed her like that, her little badass trope scene, and just to spectate certain things that to make us be aware. Oh Lord, have mercy! This is going to be another film when it comes to female being up in high power, right? And I thought it was just me that was going too much over the gun, but I even heard people in the audience saying, oh great, we're doing this shit. And you even have some people that even walked out of the theater because they literally seen that shit. And it may have something to do with what I'm going to mention later, but we'll get right into it. But and to make matters even more into an eye throb of a headache, we are introduced to the main character, the protagonist, and his wife. I forgot the guy's name, but he played as a kid that was on the first one. And I'm gonna have to say, when it comes to pacing of characters, especially main characters, this has to be one of the most dullest cliche character development I've seen in a long fucking while. The main protagonist is a farmer, and his wife is literally the one who is the man and the female around, bosses him around, bashes his character, not because he's doing things wrong, not because he is going around and ignoring her, but because apparently this man is too much of a man to her, and he needs to tone that down. And in a world like this, everybody knows that if you tone down your masculinity, you're gonna get killed. because you need to buckle up, be a strong-willed person when it comes to you being in a world like this. So it didn't make sense to me. Why is you bashing down this character because of how he is in this type of, in his Roman times? And she pays for it because she dies herself. So literally this guy loses his wife, and this is when he becomes an vengeful aspect by him being a warrior, him being a barbarian. And I felt nothing. I felt nothing with his vengeance. I felt nothing with his drive other than the fact that he was being a man too much and he has to nerf that shit. And you're going to feel that a lot when it comes to this project, because it feels like this movie was to masculine women, and they was paying for it a lot, especially when it comes to them being politically correct, and it comes to men trying to nerf their aspects of being too masculine and making us feel like, okay, you're a man, you're bad. You're a man, you're tragic. You're a man, you're toxic. You're a man, you instantly have to be killed. And you get a lot of that shit here when it comes to a project like this, especially when it comes to a Gladiator film that does not fucking belong. When it comes to pacing to characters, I like to push the shit aside because, again, there could be some woke projects that could make it over when it comes to the story being executed. But it made me feel as if they put more woke things on here, more political correct things on here, more female correctness when it comes to them bashing men to the point where they've forgotten about the plot. They forgot about the execution. And they put characters on this film, like actors on this film, that made me cringe. That made me feel as if, okay, they're going to be in this film to not just try to make the film better, but they know that this is a woke film based on a masterpiece, so they're going to be on here just so they can make this film more woke. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm going to talk about Pedro Pascal's character that plays one of the generals that literally is in charge of the main character's wife being killed, and he's trying to kill him. And honestly, he's not even the person that kills his wife. He saw the person that killed the character's wife, but he wants to kill him. I'm gonna have to tell you right now, Pedro Pascal's character, I don't like Pedro. I don't like him as an actor, and I don't like him as a person. I hate Pedro Pascal. Now I know some people may come into a feeling debate, but hear me out here. Pedro Pascal, he's not talented. He's a good actor, but he's not talented. You can name me any project that he has fucking done, and I'm pretty sure people could have done what he fucking did. I've watched Game of Thrones. He done a good job, but not memorable. If you want to watch a good film from him, I suggest you guys watch Prospect. Prospect was a very good film, no wokeness at all, no agendas. He played as a good character that didn't put no emotions to a side. He did feel a certain way, but when it came to him feeling a certain character, when it comes to him relating to a certain character, and we warranted that too. Pedro's beginning to build up a certain pattern to his acting that I was beginning to pick up on. It started with The Last of Us. By him nerfing Joel's character, making him a bitch, making him sentimental. And I don't mind that, but if you played the games and watch the series, you see the difference. And I feel like that's why they chose Pedro Pascal instead of using other kids that could have done way better, like Hugh Jackman. Fuck you. I think Hugh Jackman could have done a way better job than Pedro. And then we have this. We have him playing a general that doesn't even like to battle. He's against war. But yet you're a general. How did you get that position? I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand. And to make matters worse, he even has a wife that talks shit about him too. And apparently he's a cook. So why you have... I don't understand this shit. I don't understand this shit. So you have a weak-minded character that Pedro Pascal plays that apparently doesn't like the things that he's doing because he's in a reconsidering gesture of him just narrowing down his male propaganda to be more emotional. He does that a lot with characters that he plays. And again, you see the pattern to him. I hate... When I saw Pedro Pascal on the trailer, I began to have like this little thing like to myself, like, you know what? I know what he's going to do. I know what he's going to do. It's all over Hollywood now. When you begin to see characters play certain roles in characters, they're not acting. They're putting a part of themselves in characters to deliver that message. Bella Ramsey is another example of this too. And we are beginning to see the pattern to the point where we don't even want to see them on screen because we know what they're going to do. We know what they're going to perpetuate. We know what type of message they're going to put out there. And if they're not going to do that, then they're going to put it in franchises that we know and love. This goes out to the woke mob. If you people think that I'm bashing on you guys, I am bashing on the project by this not being good because it is doing too much to appeal to people like you that probably not even going to watch this shit. And take my advice. If y'all do your own projects, then we'll leave it alone. But y'all projects don't do well when it comes to y'all own independency of creativity, which I understand. Y'all know y'all don't do well when it comes to doing independent projects, independent games, independent shows, independent movies. So y'all got to attack franchises that was very creative and very productive back then and put a rainbow flag on top of it. Speaking of rainbow flags, let's talk about Denzel Washington's character. Now, I have to give him some prompts, but not in the way what you guys expect. Denzel Washington, I'm gonna have to tell you right now, I like Denzel Washington's character. He was literally the advertisement of why people want to watch Gladiator 2. He never sucked at anything. Dude, you sucked in this movie. You was terrible in this movie. But we already know the ordeal. Dude, you were just here to get paid. And honestly, the whole budget probably went to paying you. I already know. Parts of his character kind of confuse me. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's been certain feedback about him and behind the scenes, certain like scenes where he wanted to cut out, especially a kissing scene. And he didn't want to put that in the film because apparently he didn't want audiences to criticize his, his acting. And even people, and this is a shout out to a person who watches my channel. He's a good friend of mine. He pointed that out too. He commented on my post, and the reason why I didn't respond because it was going to be too much to explain. And to be honest with you, I don't know why they cut that scene out. I wouldn't have minded that being on a film like this because it's based on the Greek times. A lot of things happen at those times. A lot of gay activity, a lot of, incest activity. I wouldn't have mind him like doing that. It didn't make sense for him to cut that scene out. And to make matters even more questionable, he said that it's because apparently they didn't want to criticize him of wokeism. So that's either can mean two things. One, he probably had no idea this movie was going to be fucking woke, and he thought this was going to be a very good scripted film that was going to live up to the original. Or number two, he probably meant this movie was woke enough, and he didn't want to be part of that wokeism, which leads to the acting itself. Take all that aside, his acting was terrible. What makes a woke film is making it better by you having a woke cast. And when you have a woke cast that put political messages into it, when you put certain things, when it adds to agendas to bash other communities as well, that's when you lead yourself into a project that is going to fall flat. And that's how Gladiator 2 is. When it comes to this project beginning to wrap up, I was trying to see how everything was going to fall in place. Going into the last half of the project, when they was beginning to wrap this whole film up, they decided to take everything that really was rushed into the whole beginning of the project all the way into now and just try to make it all make sense by a message, by a big standpoint, by a few battles, and above all, by our main protagonist trying to win his way to win the whole crowd over. And it did not pay off. It did not pay off at all because everything in this film was filled with agendas and just political standpoints and just women empowerment. And that's normally what happens when you make films or projects like this, when you're so focused on wokeism, when you're so focused on modern audiences, when you're so focused on a small bit of people in viewers that's not really gonna watch your content and support it and give it recognition that you need. Because if you was appealing to them, then y'all would have just made your own project, like I mentioned. And just like how I mentioned, those standalone projects is failing. So y'all try to make it seem as if y'all appealing to us by appealing to them. And this is what happens. You forget that you are making a creative project, and right when you are going into the climactic scene of the film, you try to make it make sense. You try to make us be won over by the cinematography and just the plot itself. But no, it falls flat. It's like you going into space and you crash land. It was terrible. Even when it comes to the closure of the characters, their altercations, their confrontations, and above all, just how they were selling differences, not just towards each other, but just towards other enemies as well. Even when it comes to the deaths. Especially Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington dies on this film. Yeah, I'm gonna spoil this film because I don't want you to see it. I don't want y'all to see it. You're not gonna see this movie. By them knowing that they was at the end of the roast, they was beginning to give this farmer, the main protagonist, again, don't even know his name, so much respect because he killed a handful of people and now he deserves a demanding presence. And then all of a sudden we end up having some hack and slashing moments, and then that was it. And I feel like it didn't warrant it at all. No memorable moments, no one-liner scenes that we had in the original, no characters that made us feel as if, damn, they did a very fucking good job. And above all, no choreography to make the movie stand out from its predecessors. This movie had two things. One, to make it like this, or two, to make this movie feel as if, you know what, Hollywood is beginning to fall on track now. If you think about it, if this movie would have been as good as the original, this movie would have made people feel as if, you know what, the wokeism is gone. It had the potential. It had the charisma. It had the formula. I mean, really, Scott, you had the charisma and you had the formula, you know? But no, it fell flat because Hollywood doesn't play that. If it's LGBTQ, then you need to shoo. That's how I am. If it's woke, you're gonna choke. If it's Black Lives Matter, then creativity doesn't matter. That's just how I feel about this shit. Overall, this movie was a fucking waste of fucking time. And I'm really trying to hold my anger because, listen, man, when I know projects is woke, I can tell by watching the trailers or listening to certain critics. I was caught off guard. And it's kind of like shame on us because we know films from Hollywood is going to be like this, especially when it comes to predecessors being made back then. And they re-releasing it, and you know that these movies are going to have agendas in it. You know they're going to have certain tropes in it, especially if you're going to have casts like Pedro Pascal that's going to be around shit like this. I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry because we know the pattern to this shit already. My point is that you got creators, you got critics, you got people like me that talk about shit like this. And then you have creators that get kicked to the curb because they're getting pushed aside by their own political beliefs. That's not creative thinking. You're taking a risk, but you're taking a risk to appeal to people that loved your previous projects, to push them away by us knowing that you are trying to appeal to the modern audience. And you're throwing that creativity out of the window. And by that, this is how I feel about Gladiator 2. And really, Scott, I don't know what you was thinking. By you seeing all these movies, all these projects being thrown out the window by the budget being so high but not paying for it, you should have known that critics and viewers was too smart to even point out the shit and letting that shit go. You should have just said, fuck it. You should have did what Ubisoft did with, with Assassin's Creed Shadows. They did that first strike on Star Wars Outlaws. And then they just said, we're going to push this shit back because if they notice anything bad about this game, we're not going to hit the end of it. Y'all still haven't learned y'all lesson? Y'all just love wasting money. I just don't understand, man. I just don't. Movies, projects like this, always put creativity last. And when their cup is filled, they don't really have space to put creativity, and doing very, very obsessive risk taking just so we can all be like, damn, like this is pretty good because I'm surprised they put this shit in here that people can relate to. When y'all make a project, this is what y'all do. Y'all have a cup, and the cup is the project. And what y'all do now, instead of putting creativity and putting a good story, putting good like character development into it, y'all throw that all to the curve. And what y'all do is y'all add modern audience into it. Black Lives Matter into it. Trans Lives Matter into it. Feminism into it. Political correct bullshit into it. And stir that up, and then you see a rainbow pattern. And before you know that, the cup is already filled up. So at this point, now you have only one more dose for one more thing. What should we put in now? Should we put character development into it? Should we put the story into it now? What should we do? What should we do? Whatever you put into it, it won't be enough for it to pay off of what the fuck y'all did into it. And by y'all doing that to Gladiator, we didn't get nothing but the movie sucking! You got me. You got me this time. Dismissed.